Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Navigating the Entrepreneurial Journey, Wisdom from Female Founders, the panel sessions that we have in this year, right? So we are thrilled to have each one of you here today. Let's just do a sensing. Let's get some sensing from the floor. So I'm going to just flash out some questions on the screen. So you can answer to the poll and launching a poll from Zoom side. If you're on Facebook, just feel free to leave your answers in comments. So the first question is, right, so are you actively running a business right now? So A, yes, if you're a startup or business owner right now. B, no, if you are, but you are aspiring to start one. C, still in progress of figuring things out. So moving on to the next question. Are you currently in the process of raising capital? So A for yes, if you're raising capital now. B, not yet, but planning to in near future. C is no, not considering fundraising at this time. Okay, so we have 70% of the crowd is a startup or business owner, right? So I hope that today's content would be useful for you. For people who are aspiring to start one, maybe you can get some inspiration and motivations to to start somewhere after hearing from our panelists and moderator. Same goes as the one that's still figuring out, right? Right. So the reason of why we are having creating this space like these panel sessions with our esteemed panelists is to open up a space to invite diverse perspectives or experience sharing from different people, especially female founders who have been there, have done something similar, to just invite them to hear from them. And with today's panel sessions, we are intended to also launch our first ever Alpha Startups for Women Only. And I'm excited about the discussions and insights that will unfold today. So before that, why we are doing this, I think we have been seeing like the gaps for female in the startup ecosystem. So these are statistics that has been throwing around recently, right? But at the same time, we have also seen some significant progress that's happening in the West, in the States. So the idea of it is that in the past 11 years, when B137 has created multiple pre-accelerators, we have seen innovation in different outlook. And today, we are committed to make a conscious effort in amplifying Alpha Startups outreach to the women's community. And by launching our 60th batch of Alpha Startups, the first Alpha Startups for Women pre-accelerator. Right, so Alpha Startups for Women pre-accelerator is meant to, achieve these few outcomes. So first is definitely to inspire and motivate women entrepreneurs to contribute to positive change in their lives and communities. But the key of it is by highlighting the achievements and stories of women so that people, the audiences and the community can learn from them. Second and third is about empowering women by providing them with tools, knowledge, resources, and information to start a business. Even if you figure out at the end, entrepreneurial starting out a business is not your thing, but the skills that you acquire from the program itself would be beneficial even in your professional life. Third is to provide you opportunities to network and collaborate among women. So the idea of it is to create like this space for you to hear insights from different mentors, different people who have been doing things that might be slightly different but applicable in your context, so that creating that peer-to-peer learning environment would be something that we are aiming to achieve as well. So that's the reason why, and with that, we have a series of startup stories that line up, and videos that would be launching in the subsequent time. So we have like different founders, startups that has been created in the recent past 2-3 years. So we have invited Regina from W Ward to speak about her startup stories, Dr. Noremi in the space tech industry to talk about her story as well. And we have Dr. Sharon from MyScripts and Oritas from Oritas Senior Care Senior Berhad. So we are trying to provide different angle for you to understand like how women in different industry and business outlook would have different kind of experience. And we also have a video series launch with the Shift Asia, and in-depth series with Freda that released in the February time. So if you're interested to follow up, to have a close follow-up and listening to the stories, we'll be posting it on our social medias as well. So you can definitely take a screenshot and save the dates, and it would be available on those dates itself. Right? And next would be the program itself, right? So what we are trying to do with the program, it's like people are asking like how different it would be compared to our usual pre-accelerator. So I would say it's the same pre-accelerator program. There's nothing changes with the content itself. We have Alpha Startups Online is made accessible for all for free online. Even if you are male, you wanted to kickstart it right now, just feel free to sign it up. But for this batch, what's different about this batch is that our pre-accelerator has always meant for ideas or teams with ideas at very early stage, right? So how do we define early stage startups is teams that who are just at ideation stage, or if you are trying to figure out your product market fit, haven't have any funding yet, this is the space where you can engage with us, talk to us, learn from our mentors pool, just to understand how you can have build a better foundation for you to launch a startup, or just build a good fundamental for you to scale your businesses. So that's the idea of pre-accelerator. So the structure of the pre-accelerator is pretty simple. The application is launched today. So fill out the form and we will be selecting and filtering the application throughout. And once you have been selected into the program, you will go through our online learning modules, Alpha Startups Online. And the key differentiators would be the mentoring sessions that we have with all the domain experts that we have invited from different industries and backgrounds, so that you can speak with them directly and hearing different advices and insights from different people who have been there through that. And then next, if you decided that you are ready to pitch for funding, then you can submit and apply for the qualifying video pitching. And upon completion of that, if you're selected from your qualifying video pitch sessions, then you will be selected to pitch during the demo day, right? And people who have been selected through the demo day would have the chance to acquire, to be funded with RM50 top cash for funding for that. And then you would also be able to receive mentoring support from 137 Ventures team. So the requirement for it is pretty simple for this batch. If you have a team with who have at least one female, or you're female yourself who have an idea that you wanted to see through it from this pre-accelerator program, you are welcome to join. If you're at ideation stage or MVP stage with a scalable business model, that's definitely more favorable. So you either have to be based in Malaysia or serve a Malaysian market, or you must have have one Malaysian co-founder, regardless of the market served or geographic location, right? So again, like this program is free for all. There's no application fee to join this accelerator. So if you're interested, feel free to look up to our website. We'll be showing a QR code later too. Right? So as mentioned, the perks and benefits of the program, why we are different from the other accelerator program, or what the opportunities that you can get from joining us this time is you will get to unlock your pre-seed, you will get to seek out for a pre-seed funding opportunity, as I mentioned earlier. So if you get selected to demo day, you have a chance to pitch for up to around 50K. And we also have like different mentoring sessions that has invited different domain experts, as mentioned earlier. So if you decided that if you have graduated from the program itself, you'll also get digital credits up to 20K. as a reward. And last but not least is that working with us, we will be able to help you to connect to the corporate partners or startup partners that we think would be beneficial to help you to scale your business or ideas quicker in the market. Right? So for a timeline, the applications will be open today, and then and it will be open for a month. Application will be closed on 19th February. And then your first day would start on 27th February if you get selected, right? So if you have any questions regarding the application format, just feel free to drop us a question in the chat and we will be answering to that. Without further ado, let us invite Freda.
Hi.
Right, let us invite Freda. So as the moderator of today's event, take it away, Freda.
Thank you, Roni. Thank you. Hi, good morning, everybody. Good to have everybody here. Really happy to be part of this, and thanks for explaining that as well. And then the lineup of speakers I was just seeing earlier on. So my script's from Kuching, Spaces in Penang. So we're encouraging participation across Malaysia and across the region, right? Not just in the Klang Valley. Of course, I'm going to introduce the panelists in just a moment. The reason why we're doing this, and I do know that some people say, why do we have to do an all-female accelerator program? Well, according to the Department of Statistics Malaysia, this is 2016 survey, right? 20% of businesses in Malaysia are owned by women. And one of the things under sustainability is that we're trying to get one of the targets is to get participation, right? And decision-making roles, whether it's in politics, be in business, whether it's in the workplace. And I think workplace, generally, the larger organizations have sort of moved in that right direction. But when it comes to business, and let's not go into politics because I'm not in it, but again, we're not equally represented. So until we get to equal representation, we will have to continue to do things that will be different, right? So a couple of stats as well. Southeast Asia, female founder startups only accounted for 17.2% of all private capital raised in 2021, according to Deal Street Asia. Also, this is a very famous McKinsey report. Asia Pacific stands to gain a sounding 4.5 trillion annually in GDP by 2025, only through accelerated strides towards gender parity. So this is one of the things. And 2025 is next year. So I don't know whether we'll be able to, but let's keep moving in that direction. On that note, I'd like to invite the panelists. I know some of them have to leave by 10:50. Let me introduce Nadia Ismadi, co-founder and CEO of Pod. She's based now, well, she flits between Indonesia and Malaysia. She's right now in Jakarta. Anabelle Co-Martinent, co-founder of Juiceria, Superfoods, and Fearless Female Asia, and many, many, many other things in between that. And Parmeet, co-founder and partner at Enjoyed Consulting. Good morning, ladies. I'm mindful of time. So what we'll also be doing here is that as we talk about this later on, we will have the Q&A session for all of you to ask questions as well. But maybe I'll get them to talk a little bit about themselves and why they got into entrepreneurship. So we'll start with Nadia.
Hello, hi everyone. Thank you so much, Freda, for the kind introduction. I'm Nadia Ismadi, the co-founder of Pod. Basically, what Pod is a financial well-being platform to help the underserved, especially the gig workers, to get access to financial products. So, these days, freelancers, self-employed individuals, like many of you potentially going to be, getting access to financial products not going to be so easy. So we started to basically help level the playing field so that more people can get access to fair financing, financial literacy, and basic products like savings, building credit trails, and so on. We started in Malaysia and we've expanded our footprint into Indonesia. That's why I'm based in Jakarta at the moment. We started in 2018. We launched the platform in 2019. So there's a lot of up and downs in between, but I think we'll get into that a bit later. But that's how we got started. Prior to this, I was with an asset management company, so I was in corporate. Then decided to do this good or bad decision. We'll discuss later.
All right. Okay. Okay. Good. It's gonna be good. Okay. I'm gonna merge these two questions. Then, Anabelle, a little bit about yourself, why you got into entrepreneurship, and what led you to start. What were you trying to solve when you started your business?
Okay, so starting from the background, yes. So, a little bit of background. I'm from Manila, moved to Singapore, moved to Kuala Lumpur 17 years ago. I was in the corporate space, like many of you girls, who probably started in tech, a very comfortable job. But as you become a mother, I think the women's instinct of time is limited, and I would love to do something purposeful, yet contributing to the economy, yet also helping me to go to the next step, which is entrepreneurship, because a lot of the Chinese back in Manila own businesses. So that was really the foundation of why I left a comfortable job. And as you look around, you're trying to think, I want to create a brand, but I want to solve a problem. And back then, back in 2009, Malaysia was already highest obesity rate and highest diabetic rate. And until today, in Southeast Asia, Malaysia is still top in terms of that category. So seeing that the juice trending, juice fasting, detoxing was a big, big thing back in the United States, and anything in the States is happening also in Manila. We saw an opportunity that in Malaysia, Malaysians need this, but nobody's doing it really well. So with that flair for branding, then I said, okay, let's create a brand. And from that small dream in the kitchen, just you being a crazy woman thinking you can change a couple of people, that just kind of compounded. And over 10 years, from the kitchen to multiple outlets, until certain restaurant brands like Superfood, Super Saigon, Hawker Hall all kind of came out from that small seed, right? And then after that, pandemic happened, and there's new purpose. And as we get older, we want to do new things. And so looking at other ventures such as plant-based meat, looking at publishing, digital publishing, which is one of my favorites, hobby and interest. So yeah, so these are just some of the things that's keeping me busy, and wellness and beauty is also something that I love. So looking into several things, and I think being a woman doesn't always mean you've got it figured out. It means that you are exploring, you are living, and you are still evolving. Thank you.
Right. All right. Thanks. Parmeet, tell us a little bit about Joyd Consulting.
Hi, everyone. So I started Joyd Consulting back in 2017, 2018. I was just telling Freda earlier that my journey was a bit different because I left Google not with the intention of starting Joyd Consulting. I left Google because I wanted to create more impact, and I left it because I wanted to start a startup in the in the space of basically inspiring artisans to promote their high quality crafts. And I wanted to kind of build something like an Etsy. So, but I felt there was a lot more scope in Southeast Asia, and basically I wanted to kind of like tell their stories and build a platform for them. So that was the reason I left Google. And I think it was challenging, but I did it anyway. And I think along the way, I kind of Joyd Consulting happened because I was also already coaching and guiding startups in their field, given my background in Google. And I think Joyd Consulting happened that way. And me and my partner, who's also a female founder, we started building, and we just started getting more clients, and it kind of evolved into a different startup, which is what we have today. And that said, I work with many different businesses. We have, I worked with about 30, 40 different types of businesses, different industries, from, electronics, wellness, food, fashion. And I think, like as a woman as well, and meeting women founders and male founders, I think I've had an opportunity to really go deep into their businesses, and what makes businesses work. And pretty much that's my focus now. We help businesses grow online, taking into account a full stream of, digital marketing, analytics, user experience improvement that's required for their businesses. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for explaining, lady. So what we'll be going through will be the joys and tribulations of going to a business, what support you got and what support you wished you had, some of the roadblocks ahead. And if these roadblocks would pertain to gender, how would you do things differently? And of course, a little bit of a time for Q&A as well at the end. And also, I know as for those of you registered, you all have your questions. So thank you. You make my life much easier with all your questions, right? So we'll go through them as well. But so what I just want to start here, I think one of the things is we talk about starting your business at various stages, right? Nadia, I know you started your business in your 20s, and I want to talk about the issue of timing, right? And if there's such a thing as the right timing, right? So I want to hear from everyone. I'll start with you, Nadia, in your 20s, starting this business.
Yeah, I'm going to be very candid about this. I think when I was considering leaving corporate, I didn't have a lot to worry about, to be honest. I still live with my parents. Was not expected to put food on the table. So I had that privilege. And I think, people in the audience have to consider, if they're leaving at different times of their lives, and there are real considerations there in terms of, whether they are the one putting food on the table, how much reserve do they have? Because the first 6 to 8 months is going to be just you grinding, most likely with your own money, right? So I think that was probably one of the things that I gave a lot of thought about, and I discussed with my parents, like, hypothetically speaking, if I were to do this, I would have to kind of rely on my own savings. I wouldn't be able to kind of, contribute as much to the household, for example. I just wanted to dedicate my time to building this, maybe 6 to 8 months. I will be all in. I'll be, a bit absent here and there. Is that going to be okay? And I think I was very thankful that I have, supportive parents. They had no idea what I was doing. I think today, if you ask my parents, they still have no idea what I was doing, but they were very supportive. They were like, okay, go out and do something that you think is worthy of your time. And I think that was probably one of the privilege that I had, and I would not discount that in deciding whether or not it was the right time. And also for me, the worst case scenario is this crash and burn, I could still go back to corporate. So there was no issue on whether or not I would be employable after. So that was, those were the two main ones that I had in my mind at the time. Yeah.
Okay. Anabelle, 9 months pregnant?
Yes. So I think, like I shared, us being women, we biologically we have changes, right? Whether having children, whether later it's menopause, or we have our period. These are what we are, and becoming a mother really gave me time to think of what's next. Otherwise, I would still be in the corporate comfortable job. So again, just like Nadia, I think you have to be upfront to all the women out there that if you were to do this, you have to be prepared, not just with your product and your purpose, which I think all of us, being women, we always have this in us before we start. But the third one is called partners. And I'm not talking about partners in business, like who's going to give you money, but the partners at home. So just like Nadia, I also had a life partner, right? My husband, who was able to put food on the table, who was able to say, go ahead and gamble. And just like Nadia, I think what's important is what is the worst case scenario? Because you need to always imagine if you succeed, that's maybe 5-10% probability, 90% might fail. And if you do fail, what lesson will it teach you? How much would you burn? And what would you do if it really happens? So I don't want people to kind of go into this, especially on an accelerator program, right? Thinking that I have to win. If I don't win the money, I can't start. You can. You start with or without the accelerator. Back then, 10 years ago, there was no accelerator programs, especially for women. And I really didn't know who to talk to. And today you have this opportunity to talk to the right people. So I really think that back in the day, how I wish there was this platform, but we didn't have it and we made it, right? And so I want you to know you have an even better chance, except you need to plan it better. You can plan it better than us, have a backup plan, and really don't go into it if it's really too risky that it's going to drain you all the way. Have a plan to prepare and have a plan on how much you want to burn, how much time you want to put, and then move from there.
Right. Okay. And for you, Parmeet?
Yeah, I think timing matters. I kind of went into it when I was in my mid-30s, so a bit later, but I'm glad I didn't leave sooner than that. In my 20s, I actually did want to as well. I've always had this entrepreneurial bug in me, right from when I was studying, and I thought I can't probably work for the rest of my life. But I tried different things along the way, but I never left corporate fully. So when I finally had to leave Google, it was a very tough decision for me. But I knew that if I didn't do it then, I would probably not do it later on.
Right.
And I think by the time I was in my mid-30s, I think financially it was a lot more stable. But I didn't have, I mean, obviously we all kind of had backup plans given, the profiles that we had. It wouldn't have been difficult to get back into corporate. But I didn't want that to be my, if you always have a plan B, then it's quite sure you're going to go back to plan B. Right. So, but, I left, I tried, and I think I'm glad I did it when I did. I have no
Mm.
regrets of saying, why didn't I start earlier and all of that. And, I don't have, I'm single, and obviously I have my own responsibilities and, family and all of that. But I think having sufficient savings matters, because I think, I didn't have it all figured. And there were times in the initial days, at least, I did come to a point where I felt, oh my God, how am I going to sustain? But I managed. But even at that point, I had that issue. Imagine if I had started way earlier, right? So having some amount of savings to give me that initial platform to move forward, I think that really helped. Because
Right.
otherwise, I think it's important to put in some of your own money.
Right.
Because if you really depend immediately on external funding, I think you don't have enough skin in the game, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's important to have skin in the game.
Everyone agree? Yes. Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna and this is open to anyone here, right? So Parmeet, Google, Anabelle last job with Microsoft, and then Nadia with Nomura Asset, right? Why was the pull so strong to start your own thing? And you all sort of alluded it. Does it have to be purposeful in terms of what you have to start, or is that not necessary? I just want to do my, so you all probably come from different viewpoints. Uh, who would like to take that first? Or who would like to take that?
I don't mind taking that first, because I think that was my biggest driver. And I remember having a chat with my country head back then, and I was like, I just need to do more. I need to drive more impact, and I've always been very connected with people rather than things. And I felt that I wanted to make a difference, right? And I think entrepreneurship gave me that opportunity, and it still does. So I may be doing very similar work now compared to what I was doing in Google, and a lot more. But the impact that I see that I can drive now is far larger, whether it's with your own employees, whether it's with your customers. So impact has always been front and center, and will always be in whatever I do. Yeah.
All right. I know, like Anabelle, it was like, I know you were looking for a business, right? And it was like
Yes.
you it wasn't so much you knew what business, but you were looking for something, right? So that the to start your own thing was seemed more important than what a business was at that time.
Yes, I think
Mm.
coming from a family of entrepreneurs, right? I've seen my mom being an entrepreneur all her life, driving businesses. It becomes part of your DNA. So even with all the things against me, meaning coming to a country that I didn't know, I was working happily in a beautiful corporate job in the Twin Towers. The drive to own something and brand something and be purposeful and driving that was stronger than being in a comfortable job. So that was already in the works for many years. But then you stayed. Then when you became a mother, you realized that time is not finite. And that was the driver of, I got to do it now. I got to do it now. And whatever happens, I'm going to do it now. And I may fail. And maybe I'll come back to Microsoft one day. But I have to try this journey. So I think many of us fear this failure, right? So, and I think that everybody has a different timeline. Not everybody will become a mother, but the drive and the purpose will still be there. So
Right.
some people will be very purposeful. They're really into helping others. Mine was very different. I loved branding. I love marketing. I love speaking to people. I love creating value outside and creating something that people will recognize. And so that was the driver of creating a brand, several brands after, and still helping other people with their brands as well. So it's different for everyone. It's not always purpose, but it
Right.
is something deep inside that you want to solve. And I'm saying this because I also meet others. Some of them are not built to be entrepreneurs, and
Right.
it's okay. You're built to be a contributor. You're built to be a back end girl. You're built to be a supporter, not a frontliner, but a back supporter, operational, and that is okay. Not everybody has to be the front. So when you run a restaurant, you can't all be the chef. You can't all be the cashier. You can't be all be the waitress, right? So everybody has to play a role to bring a company or even a brand to success. So don't be bothered if you're not purposeful, if you're not, if branding, if entrepreneurial spirit is what's driving you. I think we are all built differently. It's okay not to have it, as long as, for me, the bare basic, solve a problem in society, then you will be successful.
Right, of course, driven by the legendary mother, Ada C.
Yes.
Okay. Nadia, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I have a bit of combination of both. So
Okay.
I generally have this bugging curiosity. Like if I'm curious about something, I have to go out and explore it. Crash and burn is okay, as long as I get to the answer that doesn't work, for example, right? So I think that's probably one of the main motivator. And I've genuinely been very curious about wealth gap for a really long time. Since I started taking economics 101, and I was just really curious about like why is, the world that we live in is as such today.
Right.
And it just so happened that because of that curiosity, the kind of work that we do drives impact. So it's a byproduct of that curiosity. So I would think that like it has to be a combination of the things you truly care about. If it's, let's say, not truly impact generating from the get-go in terms of the business model, I don't think it's an issue. If, let's say, you're genuinely just passionate about connecting things, or just making money and then channeling that whatever returns is to impact, that could also be another way. But I've always just been very curious about wealth gap and inequality in access to things, and that could include financial and gender gaps as well. So that's why I decided to pursue that curiosity and see whether or not a business could come out of it.
Right.
And true enough, I think echoing to what Anabelle was saying about the accelerator, I pitched this to 1337 and they took a shot, right, to say, okay, go and try to figure this out, if this could be turned into a business. That's what drove me to begin Pod.
You had a germ of an idea.
Yeah.
You had a germ of an idea. and I know Bikesh didn't have very nice words initially, but never mind.
Yeah, and he was very
But
honest about that. He said those, I'm sure, to my face.
I'm sure he's watching too. Anyway, okay. So I want to talk a little bit about finances. And Parmeet, you were saying that, you've got to put some money in it, because otherwise there's no skin in the game, right? So, what about for the other ladies? What do you feel? Is it bootstrapping? Is it loans? Is it angel investors? Is there a right way to go? Sometimes I guess when you have investors, then you also, you have to listen to investors and what they have to say. So is there a right or a wrong way? Anybody would like to add on? And no? Okay. Parmeet already said put some money in.
Yeah, I
so
think so. For any entrepreneurial journey, there's no right or wrong way, right? For whether you start your own, you borrow money, friends and family, venture capitalists, anybody can ride on an idea, but you shouldn't let that stop you. And I think that, so I've met some women who are very, very creative, right? They may not have the money, they may not have the full skill, but if they can orchestrate, that is something that the market needs. You don't always have to be everything, even with funding. And even if I didn't figure out how to do it, funding is the last thing in my mind, because I hate numbers, I hate accounting. I love making money, but I don't like counting and kind of really the nitty-gritty of it. But you will meet the right people along the way, the right partners who will eventually complete you. And sometimes that luck will bring the right people. So it may not be in a formal way, not a bank, not a financial instrument, not a venture capitalist, not an angel investor. These are to me, these are terms that only came out in the last few years, right? But previously, it's really people who believe in you so much, in your dream so much, that they are willing to put their money together with your own to gamble with you. I think this is the fundamental, right? Whether you say it's a venture capital, the core of it is you are so focused, so crazy, so believing, like how Steve Jobs has this field of, how he believes something. And scientifically it will work because there's a problem in society, then you go for it. And the right people will jump along to really fuel that dream. So yeah, that's for me.
Okay. Before we get into the questions that was posed to the panelists, right? I want to go this question, which I don't like asking, but I think I have to ask, like, that juggling question that which always the women get to ask. And I always try to break the mold, why should the woman be doing things differently? But unfortunately, gender roles for women do come into play, right? Somehow we feel that, the role of caring for the elderly and the children falls on the woman. But conversation for another day. What's your view on this, and how do you handle this? Nadia, do you have to take care of your parents in this case, or like how you? Yeah.
I mean, my parents are still very independent and all that, but I think you rightfully pointed out, right? Instinctively, we want to take charge when it comes to nurturing with the household, the family members. So if let's say something were to happen, my dad was hospitalized not too long ago. Immediately, I just drop everything and just attend to that, right? And I think that kind of instinct that we have, it's something that we can't avoid. So a lot of times when we sit in panels like this, people say that, oh, it's not expected of a male co-founder, for example, but a lot of the women entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, they want to do that. They want to be the first one to attend to their kids or their family when they're not in the best shape. So I think it's just something that we have to work around and see it as a strength, really, not so much that it's a weakness, it dampens our progress, or we're not as gung-ho as a male counterpart. That's not true. Because we're nurturing, because we have a bit higher EQ and all these things, we can tend to our people better, we can take care of our stakeholders better because we care. And I think that's probably coming from the point of strength, right? It's just different from the kind of like way we look at our male counterparts who are not expected to have all these duties, to be the primary caretaker, for example. I see it as, it's just something that we want to do, and it's a position of strength, really, as female entrepreneurs.
Right. Okay. Parmeet.
Yeah, I agree with Nadia. I think similar. I do have responsibilities at home, with my parents, and but I don't think. I mean, I've never really thought about this question actually until this whole accelerator thing came up. But I think I agree with Nadia. It's a need. It's something that we want to do. So and I don't think we struggle with it. And I think because women generally can multitask quite well. So looking after your family, running a business or multiple businesses, looking after yourself, I think it all just happens quite naturally. And maybe when I was in corporate, I did face a lot more of, I don't know, it was not as probably equal in terms of the surrounding, where I think there just were a lot more male than female, even in the corporates that I worked in. But now in my own business, in our startup, I think it's actually swinging to the other side. So, 80% female and 20% male. Ideally, it should be 50-50. I think that's where we want to strive towards. But I think because I work with so many women, my co-founder is also a mother of 3, and I see how she kind of manages, and she does a brilliant job at it. So I think we just, we just go on with it, really. And it doesn't bother us in that way. Yeah.
Anabelle.
Yeah, so women come from the position of strength rather than weakness. I always believe that for men, yes, unfortunately, we're in Asia. And I think for culturally, wherever we are, whether Jakarta, Manila, here in Malaysia, Singapore, women are kind of expected. But we also have that in our DNA. So when we see other women make it, I believe this should inspire us rather than make us question, how do you juggle? What do you do? We all are built equally with 24 hours in a day. And today we have the tools to partner with the right people, whether it's partner with your household helpers are your partner, your husband is your partner, your children are your partners, right? And and I've seen kiddo care and all these all popping up. There are ways around it. It's not always easy, but I've seen women do it. And once we've seen women do it and they share the struggles, meaning you're not saying it's easy. I'm saying it was hard. Creating a business while I was still breastfeeding was literally something that it was the reality, but it drives you more to be more efficient because you're doing things in between breastfeeding and all that. So instead of a position of weakness, I believe it's a position of strength. We can be like men cannot be like us. And so we don't expect them to be as nurturing, but we can help them to kind of understand. And for women, again, the juggling, it will be there. Rather than question it, we embrace and we just say, okay, let's work around it. How can I find partners into this situation, whether it's elders, children, household, business. The collaboration is always the key in anything that you do, from branding to even running the family. That's my view.
All right. Okay. I'm going to go through the questions that came from the audience, and I'll try to go through as many as possible. Nadia has to go for another meeting, and I think she has to go through Jakarta traffic. So she has to leave a little bit earlier. So the first question is from the audience. It's like, how do you choose your partner in business? Do you need a partner? Who would like to take that? Parmeet has a partner.
Yeah, I think it just happened for us because Huichin and I, we were both from Google, and we started working on projects together. And literally then we said, you know what, let's just put in a proper company and let's just keep working on clients. And we had struggles, I think, in the initial days, because we're very different. And sometimes you would think, oh, maybe it's just easier without a partner. But I think I appreciate the fact that I do have someone that I can go back and actually kind of like just have bigger discussions with, like in terms of day-to-day running, we don't really, bother each other so much. But I think it's nice to have someone that you can bounce ideas with. And I think what keeps us together is the fact that even though we're very different, our values and our vision is very similar. We believe in very similar things, and and I think the value system. So I think that has kept us together. I think otherwise it would have been very difficult. Yeah.
Anyone else like to contribute to the partner question?
A wise person once told me, if I didn't find the right partner, I can always pay for a business coach. That was Freda. And I believe in this journey, everybody is different. Every product, every purpose, every service that you're about to create is different. So the answer doesn't fit everybody. Some are really meant to walk alone. Others stumble upon partnerships that I've partnered with strangers that I didn't know, Malaysians that I've never met. I've never done a background check, and I just sense that, okay, these are good people, let's do it. So partnership is never easy, just like a relationship. When you get into it, everything is beautiful, everything is great. And as you go along, you discover differences, habits, and all of that, because the two individuals are very different. But if
Just
you
like
accept
marriage.
just like marriage, and there are divorce as well, right? So I think partnerships, the question is, how do you find the right partner? There's no formula. You have to just keep speaking about your idea to as many people as possible, whether you're going to walk this alone or with others. Be the best ambassador of the product or service that you're about to create. The right partners will come along, the right financiers will come along, but be prepared to walk on it alone
as well. Okay. If nothing to, I'm going to go through the questions, right? How do you motivate yourself every day to keep on going and not to give up? Who would like to take that? Someone. You just
Okay,
keep
I think
going.
I'll go. So
Okay.
basically, we built product for the underserved, right? So it is very difficult because these are the endeavors that the banks, financial institutions don't undertake. And here we are, small flies, trying to find things, find out whether or not it's feasible. But the thing that excites and motivates me are the feedback from our users who were, during pandemic especially, were going through a lot of difficulties given that their income was fluctuating a lot more. And there was no certainty in terms of, whether or not they will be able to make it, right? So there was a story that I keep sharing over and over again, because the days when it's hard, and there are those days, and there are many of those, I remember there was this guy who was so excited telling us, because I saw that he has finished and achieved his saving goals, to buy a laptop. Then I asked, did you manage to buy a laptop for your kid? And then he cried and saying that, like, oh, I never thought I would be able to buy a secondhand laptop for my kids, because everything was done online during pandemic, right? So he never thought he would be able to do that. But because of that product that we have, it helped him to achieve that target that he has, and he bought the laptop for his kid. And I think those are the kind of stories that, even though on a grander scheme of things, people feel that like, is it worth it or not? So those days when I feel that like, oh my God, what are we doing? So sometimes I would sit with my co-founder and discuss this. Why didn't we build something simpler like an e-commerce or something? But then it wouldn't have this kind of impact that people like him has experienced through our products. So I think those are the things that inspired me. And looking at the team and how hard they work to deliver those things, I think really excites me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Anabelle, you want to add to that?
Yeah. So motivation gets you started, but it's the rest that will really kind of push you forward. So you have partners, you have people, which are your customers. Just like Nadia's story, people thanking you for creating such a product that solves a problem in their life, right? Whether it's food, it's service, and you won't always be motivated. The motivation gets you started. It is the daily grind that will really get you there. So don't ever think that you need to just be motivated. And you could be motivated in many ways, right? You reach out to people like founders, you reach out to customers, you reach out to and read books that, where women's founders have started, and knowing the struggles of others and how they overcame would be, for me, a motivation, because that makes you normal. That makes you know that you are on a normal journey of struggle on the way to greatness, and every day is not going to be beautiful, sexy flowers and and rainbows. It's going to be tough. And if you know that this is what you're going to get into, and you're still motivated to start that business or an idea, then you're on the right path. But motivation will not come every day.
Right. Okay. When is the best time to expand your business and how? And I think that question is also depending on what industry, right? Depending if you have products or whether it's services and that kind of thing. But who would like to, just share from your perspective? And I guess, yeah, time to expand your business. How maybe Anabelle, from opening another outlet from your
Okay. So nobody would teach you when is the right time. There is no scientific, no school, no guidance that will say open a new outlet, open a second branch, open a new brand. That's why they call it gut feel, right? You know you are at the right moment, at the right time, at the right space where you can fuel interest and growth and make people come to see your brand, buy your brand. This will never come in it will never come in a manual, but it is instinct. And this instinct will mean gambling more money, more money, more money. And in today's time, I believe as people evolve, as needs evolve, businesses also need to evolve with it. And that's how you kind of catch on to the trend. So the gig economy came out of nowhere. Previously, it was opening outlets. Eventually, the gig economy powered all the outlets. And as we opened more, we put, let's say, Grab Food as part of our strategy. So these things will never come in a piece of paper to say, now it's time to open. You watch your business, you assess your business, you assess the risk, and you're like, okay, do you want to gamble more? And so if you are able to financially do this expansion, then it makes sense. Otherwise, you partner, you collaborate with others. Let's say you do a joint venture on the next one. That could be another way. There are many, many ways to expand, but expansion also means risk, because scaling a business is not the same as running one outlet. It's just like cooking. You cook one recipe. I'm fantastic at this spaghetti bolognese, but the moment you cook in volume, the game changes. And this is exactly what scaling is about. It's not easy, but if you strike the right time in the market, you will gain, of course, the upper hand, right? The first mover advantage. So don't wait too long if you have a good idea. But if you are very apprehensive, financially challenged, then don't do it unless you have that avenue to really grow.
Right. I mean, that said, there's gut feel, but of course, there are also these tools that help you with analytics and all that as well. That sort of gives you an idea. Okay, we're getting some kind of growth. So there's technology to help you. That Nadia, the decision to go to Indonesia.
Yeah, so I think for me, scaling, right? It could be for two reasons. So either to ease out a bottleneck. So for example, if you have certain product market fit, and then you're just growing that, right, to an adjacent market, or you're launching a new product line that serves existing customer base, or if we're pivoting. So I think one of the reason why I moved to Indonesia was the latter. So it was more on pivoting the business model, trying to understand whether there's solid business model around inclusion, for example. So then ironing out what works in Malaysia. And then, what was funny was my initial assumption was, okay, in Malaysia, we only have 40% of the population that is under a certain income bracket. In Indonesia, that's 80% of the population. So logically speaking, it should have a bigger audience, right? So my initial thought was, okay, I bring this app that we've built in Malaysia, change everything to Bahasa Indonesia, and done. We're in a market of 300 million population. But what was funny was it didn't work out that way, because in Indonesia, the P2P platforms has come into the market first. So what that means is that they're charging 1% per day, where our users don't have money to save because they are in this really deep debt hole that they cannot get themselves out of. So there's no proposition around saving. There's no way that they could have money for anything else but debt repayment, right? Until and unless that changes, either the interest rate goes down or their income just suddenly blew out of proportion. So we had to find a different business model around similar themes, with, for example, what we've built. Okay, let's look at what are the other segment that we can service. So in Indonesia, our business model is very different. We do B2B SME financing, for example. So I think trying to understand when you are growing or when you are expanding, is it to basically ease out a bottleneck? Because let's say you have constraints around this current market that you have, or this current customer base that you have, or you're trying to pivot into a different thing altogether. And I think with that realization, also a combination of the things that Anabelle mentioned, just looking at your business, and at the end of the day, there's no right or wrong, and it's all in hindsight. Maybe, years down the line when we have this panel, I would have said, oh, actually, maybe I shouldn't have gone to Indonesia. Who knows, right? But I think having that gut to just make the call with whatever information you have at the time is, I think, what make or break entrepreneurs, right? Yeah, that's my thought.
All right. I'm going to combine these two questions. Is it essential to get a good business mentor? If yes, how and where do you find good mentors? And connecting to that is a question about connections are important in business. I find it struggle to find people who are on the same page with me. Any suggestions on how to get connections and where to start? You joined the pre-accelerator lah. But anyway.
Yes. Okay, I'll go first. So how I wish there was such an accelerator 10 years ago. And if you're listening now, you are already ahead of the game, right? They can connect you easily with the right people. And it doesn't mean money. It means I will introduce you. You better go do your thing. Networking has always been very important, but we are not all extroverts. Some of us are introverts who may not be able to carry a very, colorful conversation. I believe that mentors are everywhere, from books to podcasts to reaching out. Hey, can I treat you for coffee? That to me is probably the biggest advantage of women that they should use and keep using, because there's no fear, right? Like when you invite a woman, great. When you invite another man, great, right? For coffee. But if a man, maybe for men, it's harder because it's not natural. So use that to your advantage, because a lot of amazing conversations as mentorship happens is not through formal mentorship. Personally, for me, a lot of mentorship have happened behind a meal, a coffee, reaching out to women or men that have nothing to do with my background or business, but just the curiosity to learn. How do you do accounting? How do you hire? How do you fire? These are things that you can learn now on YouTube. You can learn it on Instagram. I love Instagram and I'm learning new things every single day. But it doesn't replace learning from another human being who's in Malaysia, who runs a business, who is willing to share a little bit of that pain and secret and success with you. That is, to me, magical. So yes, networking and reaching out to people and connections is important. And if you think you don't know where to start, I didn't know where to start, but I got here. So I believe you as Malaysians, you have 101% more chance to do it. You should reach out and reach to people and never let rejection stop you.
Okay. Parmeet or Nadia? Okay,
Sorry, can I
Nadia.
just add one more point? Because when
Sure.
I was starting out, there were so many people who were trying to offer me mentorship. My take on it is, get as much advice as you can, but don't let that paralyze your decision making. And if the person is asking you for money when you are at, early stage, definitely not the right fit.
Okay. Parmeet?
Yeah, I think I was very lucky. I think having worked in corporate for quite a few years before starting on my own, I had a good network of, people who've become friends and guides along the way. And, like 1337, people like Vikesh, and a few of other mentors that I've had. I think I really feel that that's made the journey a lot easier. And it's not so much about getting deals and all of that. That's not what I look at it as. I think it's about exchanging ideas, understanding, because they've gone through the path way before I have. And, and exactly what Anabelle said, it's not through formal sessions, it's your coffee chats that we have. And you don't go in there looking, hey, I'm going to go and, meet Vikesh for advice today. But, through conversations, and some of my mentors are not even in the country, and they're in very different fields, because it doesn't mean that I only have to learn from entrepreneurs. There are people who are in senior corporate positions as well, who can have, a lot to share in terms of leadership, right? So I think having started the journey later, that has been a key asset that I've had, given the exposure to different people. And yeah, I think it matters. But that said, there's also a lot of free advice. So exactly like what Nadia said, right? Be careful from, like who you get advice from as well. And I still feel that, putting some money down, and yes, you can get support from others, but just, be cautious about that as well, because I had an experience once where I think, I have this thing where I think sometimes I can be a bit too trusting, and I've had to grow, in my early days. And, but then you learn, and then you know who to trust in, and then who to seek advice from. And now I have my little circle of, mentors that I go to every now and then. Yeah.
All right. Okay. This is a question I'm going to also combine. As a female founder, do you think you get treated differently from your male counterparts? And do the questions you get, are they different from your male counterparts? Do you feel that? Anybody would like to answer that?
I think
Yeah.
I was struggling with this question because I think ever since we started Joint Consulting, maybe it's because I started it later, I've already had a lot of that experience of working with a lot of very strong male counterparts, and given my background in finance and then Google. So in my current business, obviously, we have a lot of a variety of clients, but we don't think we get treated differently, or at least I don't think that way, because, and maybe it's a mindset that I now have, that I can face anything from anyone. So I think there's a lot less fear now than probably what I would have had 10 years ago, when I was still in corporate, right? That said, I do understand what some women go through, because I think it is there. But I personally have not been facing too much of it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to get the audience to, if you have any questions, to put it in the chat box. Do feel free to ask those questions. In the meantime, there are still some questions I will go through. So if you have any questions in the chat box, I've got my screen on half, so I can see, I have to think of myself. Anyway, yes, I want to ask this question as we're waiting for questions as well. Do you consider ESG integration into the business model or plan, because that's what's happening right now? Or is it too early to think about it, or what have you? Annabelle.
Personally, ESG is something that has kind of evolved over time, right? Sustainability, talking about back in the 80s, it was the ozone layer. Now it's, sustainability, whether it's in the practices, in the company. No matter how small or big you are, I think if you worry about the future, if you worry about children, if you worry about what's going to happen to your business later on, or to the employees, or to the planet, there are ways to incorporate that into your business. Sustainability in general affects all of us, even if you're not an owner, an entrepreneur. From just working in the corporate space and bringing your own thing and trying not to waste more stuff, and the way that you're ordering from which supplier, these are all practices that we can do today. I believe because I'm a mother, the instinct comes very strongly, because you want the planet to exist exactly how it is when you pass it on to the next generation. So ESG becomes even more important. war ongoing, the planet is getting warmer. We see all the calamities becoming more and more crazier. We can't run away from it. And the bigger companies have a huge responsibility. The small companies, as individuals, we all have our responsibility in sustainability.
Right. Okay. Any questions? Please put that in the chat box. Yeah, so far none on the chat box. Okay. I'm going to ask also, profit versus growth. What takes priority and when should you be profitable?
As fast as you can.
Okay.
I think gone are the days, growth at all costs. Things are changing, right? So, and I think you've got to be, having your hand on the pulse, understanding what is, as founders, our main job is storytelling, right? So, what kind of stories are you narrating to stakeholders? That includes investors. Before these investors want to hear, oh, you grow in 5 markets in 2 years, for example, right? And they would fund the growth and subsidize it in the name of cornering the market, getting market share. But I think the narrative has shifted because, the macroeconomic trend where price of capital is getting more expensive. So nobody is willing to waste money to just corner the market in hopes and assume that eventually you would be able to be the primary or leading player and be able to monetize off that. So as fast as you can, that would be my answer, is when you are starting a business, before you kind of grow and think about scaling, think about the unit economics for your products and see how you can, make the best out of each vertical before you kind of grow beyond your home market.
Right. If you have any questions, especially for Nadia, because she's got about like 3 minutes before she has to go.
And I got about like 9:55, so maybe about like 7 minutes.
You 9:55. Oh yeah, Indonesia 1 hour behind. All right. Any other questions? If I've got some more questions as usual. Technology, right? For someone saying, how important is technology in starting a business, right? Is that a requirement? Maybe someone listening here and say, I just want to do it F&B, for example, right?
Very, very important. Technology, if not just technology, but social media, anything that has to do with the modern times, where people are, what people are using, this is very important because otherwise you will be left behind. I'm sure the auntie, uncle running a hawker stall still makes money. They still can serve really good food fast enough. But if you want to play a game where you evolve the company, and you need to, because otherwise it will be left behind later, you need to use tools that is made available today, from POS systems to using Grab Food as a technology to bring your brand further. Whether it is, let's say, you're producing plant-based meat or you have a beauty service happening, you need technology to get that message across. You need technology to make your employees efficient. You need technology to make things smoother. And if you don't adapt that today, I think you are missing out. You are missing out on making things smoother and faster. But always the difficulty for SMEs, especially women, is evaluating the right technology. It took us 3 POS system guys before we got it right, and that was a very extremely expensive exercise from a lot of different learnings. But go and evaluate, go and speak to people, go and speak to other businesses of the same industry, so that you can learn faster and make less mistakes.
All right. A question here from Jotong to Nadia. Do you have to incorporate a company to bring the platform to Indonesia?
Yes, and I'm also very fortunate that one of my early stage investor, they're from Indonesia, so they helped us to basically navigate the market in the early stage quite quickly.
Okay. Alana Kirby's got a question. What's considered a decent gross profit margin? I'm struggling to price my first product and stay competitive. Health and wellness industry supplements. Seems like a Anabelle kind of question.
Okay, can you repeat the question? Because I was reading, someone sent me a direct message. I couldn't.
Okay, what is considered a decent gross profit margin?
Okay.
I'm struggling to price. Yeah. Okay.
Is she in the F&B line?
I'm struggling to price my first product, a health and wellness industry supplements.
Okay.
Protein powder, Alana.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. So, the rule of thumb, if you are creating a product straight from either repackaging it or creating it from scratch, like you're juicing from fruits to vegetables until you sell it, Typically online and retail, you need to have at least more, I would say 60-70%, because we say that because there are so many hidden costs in running a business. Typically we think, oh, it's just a couple of employees, a couple of, just a couple of systems, but really later on you need to discover that each industry has a very different net profit margins, gross profit margins. A few things that is, that you need to think about is always just your employees, your operational costs, rental, the other things to make your company run. Those have to go into running a business and a product. So we as women, we always undervalue ourselves in some form or shape, whether it's a product gross profit or it's in other things. Please take note that you have to have room for error. And oftentimes I've seen people creating products, they don't have enough margins. And this is a very dangerous game, because later on it will catch up. 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, it's going to catch up with you. So study it really well. And if you're in the beauty and wellness, you need at least, I would say 60-70%, because there are so many things, from marketing to ads to packaging. Beautiful packaging is now part of all of this, right? So there are so many elements to it. Study it carefully.
Okay. The couple of more questions come through. Pravina asks, how can I get hold of you, Anabelle? Find her on Instagram. She will respond to you there. And then I think there's a question, is how can someone stand out to take part in the accelerator? And I think the team from Lead Ventures will answer you that question later on, Melissa. As a woman entrepreneur, instead of saying that we can start from zero, do you have any powerful word in your mind that you share with us, which sounds better than zero? Now, okay, before we go into that, and you can incorporate that in your answer, just again, mindful of time, this is a question, closing question to last two questions, and I'll get Nadia to answer first. What you know now you wish you knew then?
Honestly, I have very little regrets in my journey, right? So, like I said, there's no right or wrong and everything in hindsight. And if, let's say, I were to restart and do it all over again with the information I have at that point in time, all the decisions would have been the same. So in my mind, I don't think there's anything I would have done differently. It's just that I think if you can pick yourself up and move on from failures or setbacks quickly, I think that would probably be best. Don't, harbor too much of all this unnecessary baggage that you carry in your journey, because the journey is already tough,
Okay. Parmeet?
I think having a strong mindset helps. And I think having started this, in my mid-30s, I spent the previous 10, 15 years in corporate honing my skills and building a stronger mindset for myself, so that, because you are going to face failures, you're going to fall. There's some not very rosy days, and there still are some not very rosy days. But I think now, with the mindset I have, to keep going, to have a bigger purpose and to be responsible over other people as well, because it's not just about me alone now. It's my team, it's my clients. And I think that mindset keeps me going, and that really helps. And I think that was in my early 20s. Maybe I wouldn't have been as strong.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Anabelle?
If you're a woman and you have this entrepreneurial spirit ever since, you graduated, you knew you have something in you. How I wish I started earlier, but I didn't, right? And I went through a 10-year corporate journey, which of course, no regrets, because it was wonderful. It was empowering. It was mind-blowing in terms of the experience. However, in today's time, if you're listening, you're young, you have all the tools that I didn't have back then. And if you have the financial means to do it, to learn from your mistakes and quickly pivot and keep tweaking until you get there, I wish I lived in this era and I started earlier, but I didn't, right? So I started with a bit of wisdom, with financial support and means already. No regrets there, but I would love to be young in this day and time.
Okay. All right. And then I guess, of course, we've got the accelerator happening, pre-accelerator happening. What's your advice to women, even if, they're not sure if entrepreneurship is for them? Your thoughts?
I think
I've got to
joining
run,
an
everyone. Thank you
accelerator.
so much.
Bye, Nadia.
I think when I
Thank-
joined the accelerator, I was in my very early days. And even if I wasn't sure whether I was actually going to build something, I think you learn a lot, the skills you pick up in terms of, stepping out of the box, learning about product market fit, presentation, talking to different, stakeholders. So I think these are all skills that you need, and even in corporate, we were tested on a lot of this. But this is a real environment. I think it's a great exposure. So go in, and I think even if you don't have the best idea, give it a shot. And I think you're going to come out stronger, and you're going to come out with a lot of learnings that you can then use to decide whether, do you want to, go forward in this journey or not. So, yeah.
Anabelle.
Every day is a chance to learn something new, even at this age and even at this level of having ran a couple of companies, a few hundred employees. I joined an accelerator recently, and it was very humbling because you learn the new things that investors are looking for. So my advice is it's never too late to learn. It's always every day you wake up, there's something to learn. An accelerator program may not give you the money, but it will give you a bit of a background and a skill set. This is like a free MBA that I wish I had back then. So don't go in thinking that, oh, no money, I didn't get it. But you should go in thinking that I'm here to learn, and there's free learning out there, Malaysian style, Malaysian founders. I'm here to absorb as much as I can. And in fact, my idea might completely change or change along, and have the humility, because we are all humans. We are all learning. We are all making mistakes every single day. So if you have that as a mindset, an accelerator program or even mentoring, all of this will become something easy. It's just, I'm here to learn. I'm here to make mistakes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm grateful. If you have this mindset, this will make you, I would say, go really far in this entrepreneurship journey.
All right. Thank you. And I know questions from Kathy, Cheryl, and also Debbie, so maybe take part in the pre-accelerator and okay. Okay, typical at the end of the cohort. All right, okay, no. So all these questions, I hope the lead team is looking at it and addressing. Would other accelerators typically charge a fee at the end of the cohort? I have no idea about other accelerators, but I'll pass this back to Roni. Thank you, Anabelle. Thank you, Parmeet.
Yeah,
Don't go
thank you
yet.
very
Okay.
much for contributing to the panel sessions. I hope the audience find it informative and engaging. Right. So regarding the questions for the accelerator, for sure, we would be addressing that. So again, if you want to find out more about the accelerator program, it's here. You can scan on your phone or just copy the bit.ly link, right? And the application is open today. And the application would close on 19th February. So you have plenty of time to think about, to look through the form and submit your applications forms. It's then you would hear from us if your application is being selected, right? So, and another reminder is that we are having a series stories lined up from our local Malaysian startups from different industry and background. So feel free to take these screenshots and book it out on your calendar and dial in and listen to their stories. Most probably you can get more insights and inspirations of how they have started, how the entrepreneurial journey looked like, and especially also what's the learnings that you might be able to obtain from their keynote session, right? So
Roni, before that, one person brought up how to stand out so that they get selected. Any tips? Bikesh, who wrote in the chat group in uppercase. How do you anybody? How do you stand out to get selected?
So for our application process, if you are very clear, I think just answering, put some effort in answering the application form, that's the first step. Because sometimes I know this seems a little bit tedious, but we need to understand who we are taking into the accelerator program, right? Understanding the crowd is what we do. So make sure that you answer to the questions with sufficient words and descriptions. I think during the accelerator, what we are looking for is definitely your commitment into your own ideas. So as a mentor that's sitting in throughout the program and organizing various batches of accelerators, I've also seen a lot of participants that coming in with different mindset. So as what the panelist has mentioned earlier, mindset is important and it carries out from your behaviors and your commitment into the program. So I understand that it might look like very occupied. Everyone's schedules is occupied. But to a certain extent, it's about being communicative in a program, like whether you are engaging with the mentors, experienced mentors or 137 mentors, completing the work that we are asking them to complete. I think those are things that we are looking for, like how you are be engaged in the accelerator is actually one of the very important elements that we are looking out for. Yeah.
Okay. How many packs do you take in for this cohort? Maybe question for later, you can send to them. Yeah.
Yeah. So as many packs that we have right now, so we are opening for welcome for any application. So for this cohort, we are only looking for ideas and teams. We are open for this batch. So we have no limitation of packs for this batch. So just submit your applications. We'll see from that.
All the best,
Right.
everyone, and do participate.
Yeah. So I'll leave it here, and thank you very much for joining in the session, and hope to see you in the next startup series with Regina. Again, like the dates are here. Yeah. Right. So thank you very much, and see you next.
Bye. Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.